of academic year. So it's good to see you, those of you in person, and also we have people streaming, if that's the correct term. I'd like to welcome our speaker today. And Ofer is from Bar-Ilan University in the Information Science Department. I first met Ofer a few years ago now, but spent quite a bit of time when I was invited over to Israel, to Tel Aviv, to give a talk at their HCI conference. And he was a fantastic host. He took me out to some really nice restaurants and nightclubs even. And but also I had the pleasure of reading his book, which I thoroughly recommend if you're interested in personal informatics, or sorry, personal information systems, which is called Managing Our Digital Stuff. Is that right? Yeah. It's a great book. Without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, and you will be talking about collecting music in the streaming age. And so, before I forget, at 4 o'clock, we have our UCLIC picnic. So at the end of this, which is in Gordon Square, is that right? Which, if you don't know, it's literally around the corner. So I'm sure there'll be someone there. So you're, yeah, just over from the farmers market. So if you want to come along, please do. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm the thing that's keeping you from the picnic. Okay. So thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Duncan, for inviting me. Thank you all for being here, and you Zoomers at home. It's great to be here. And I'll start with the fact that since Thomas Edison invented the gramophone, and for more than 100 years, people had to collect their favorite music in order to hear it. This was true for vinyl records, this was true for CDs, this was true for downloadable files, both legal and illegal, but not so for streaming music. Because with streaming music, you can collect you can collect songs like with the Apple Music, you do it by adding them to the library. With Spotify, either by liking them, putting them on playlists, or downloading them, but you don't necessarily have to do that, right? So why? Because you can either search for them or have the algorithm do that for you, get your favorite music or music of your taste for you. So do people collect more? Do people collect less? And how does it affect music in German? This is the subject of my talk today. And I'm going to present 3 studies who studied that using different methodologies. The first one is a qualitative study. The second one is a questionnaire. And the first one is a controlled experiment. I'll start with a qualitative study. In this qualitative study, we basically had 10 interviews. We interviewed people who are really keen on music. Some of them are musicians themselves. And we asked them about their experience with streaming and previous experience when they had records and CDs. At least some of them had records. And basically, they told us that they liked having access to millions of songs at little or no cost, but this has cheapened the subjective evaluation of music, right? So it's sort of like with chickens. If you give chickens small amount of food, they'll go for it and bite and eat all the time. But if you give them lots of food, they just lose interest. And not a lot of farmers here, huh? Okay, so but believe me, they just lose interest and want it. And AJ is in his late 50s, like me. He's put it very nicely. He told us about the experience in the record shop. He said 40 years ago, or was a teenager. I didn't have much money. I had money just to buy one album. Okay, so I sat in the record shop and listened to something in this, and I said, "Wow, this is it. I have to have this one, right?" And then I remember going home, and I remember my hand was shaking with the nylon, right? And then I closed the door behind me and put it on full volume, and remember all the words and all the chords and all the notes, and say, "You don't have it. You just simply don't have it anymore." This sort of experience this sort of excitement. But the truth is that I'm not sure that you don't have it anymore, because SN, who's 25, she's, unlike most of all the other participants, collected very little, but she collected a lot, right? She collected, she had like 2,000 songs, mostly in playlists, and she had one playlist called Pain in Stomach, because the song was touching her so much, her stomach ached when she heard these songs. Really, it's a true story. So, so then we thought, about this connection between collecting music and listening in German, and we tried to study it a bit more methodologically, and we did a questionnaire. Basically, we had 370 participants, and I'll start with the collection size distribution. It's not easy to describe this distribution because the variance is very high and the skewness is very high. So I think the median would do a better job than the mean to describe it, and the median was only 200 songs. Now, 200 songs is really not a lot, right? This is like less than 20 albums. This is what half of the population did. And if we split the distribution half and half, you see there's this small collection group with about 80 songs, which is really nothing, and this large collection group with above 1,000 songs. We also studied how people collected before the streaming age with CDs and records, and it turned out that there was a drastic reduction in collection size. People had like one song for every 10 songs they had records and CDs. This is like a very drastic reduction. So why is that? So first of all, collecting is not the default. If you do nothing, the songs don't get collected by themselves, right? And as HCI people, we know how important the default is. People don't really want to change the default. They think it's okay. But another reason has to do with the Enger and Leopard gem study. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. Basically, what they did is they went to a supermarket and let people taste all sorts of gems and tested how much people buy. But they did it in two conditions. The first condition, they had like 6 kinds of gems, small variety of gems. And the other condition, they had 24 kinds of gems, large variety of gems. And you might think that with a large variety of gems, people will buy more, right? Because they can find just the sort of gem they're particularly interested in. But it turned out exactly the other way. They bought 1/10 of what they did in the small variety of gems condition. And the reason for it is that it was difficult to choose. It was hard to choose, so people just don't choose. Sometimes it's easier not to choose, so people just choose not to choose. Same with dating applications, by the way. Sometimes people are so overwhelmed by the choice, they just don't make a choice and don't make long-term relationships. They're just in love with this application and variety of of partners, possible partners. But collecting music is not an old habit. You can see here that younger people collect much more than older ones, with the downfall around 40s. So like people above 40 collect half as the people younger than 40. And the reason for it, I think, I don't know the reasons, but my guess is that people over 40 collected vinyl records, and we thought it was forever, right? We invested our money and time and energy in collecting, and we got heartbroken throwing it away, and then heartbroken throwing our CDs away and the files, and we just can't afford to have our heart broken again. That's just my guess about it, but you see the evidence is very strong, and young people collect much more. Other evidence for the merits of collecting streaming music. So there's joy in discovering new songs, and there's joy in listening to old favorite songs, right? So how much do people want of each kind of experience? We asked people, and they wanted to listen to the favorite songs more than half, 64% of the time, and not the small variants. So they're really unanimous on this thing that they want to listen to the favorite songs. They don't want just to explore all the time. And when they, by the way, when they talk about the actual experience, it was half and half. What to do in practice. Regarding listening hours, they were listening on average to about 13 hours a week. And there was a positive correlation between collection size and listening hours. With a large collection group, listening 4 hours more than the small collection group. That's like a third more. It's a lot. And most importantly, listening enjoyment. I think listening enjoyment, enjoyment is the number one reason, or maybe the only reason for listening to music. So it's important. So about 1/4 of the participants said that they enjoyed listening to CDs and records more than they do to streaming music when we asked them, we gave them a choice. And we didn't ask them, we deliberately didn't ask them why, but we looked at the data. And the data showed that they were really avid collectors. They collected much more than the other participants, but they stopped altogether almost entirely to collect with streaming. So maybe, again, this heartbroken approach, which isn't very enjoyable. And most importantly, collection size positively correlated with listening enjoyment. Okay, but we know that correlation does not imply causation. We tell students all the time, and it's true. You can always think of an alternative explanation, like, for example, people who are really keen on music, people that music is very important for them, can collect more and enjoy listening more, but the latter two doesn't necessarily have to do with each other directly, right? So in order to study causation, we did a third study, which was a controlled experiment study. But before explaining the actual study, I have to ask how to measure listening enjoyment. It seems like a very easy question to ask people. And actually, we asked it in the questionnaire, and the people gave us an answer. But to give a proper answer to this question, you have to remember all the songs, probably thousands of songs that you listen to, rate each one of them, and then average them weighted by their duration, the song duration. This is, of course, impossible, and people don't do that. They apply a heuristic. But when they do it, they're biased by memory, and the memory remembers, as Daniel Kahneman found, by the peak experience. Let's forget the end, it's not relevant here, but the peak experience, when he studied people in painful medical, how do you call it, examination. The peak experience affected their whole experience, the whole memory of the medical treatment. But here, the peak experience is joyful, it's positive, right? People enjoy listening to music. So they're affected by like the music, they really most like, the stairway to heaven moment, right? The music they really like to hear mostly, they remember that, and this affects their, so in order to remove this memory bias, we have to study, to ask them about the listening enjoyment in real time. This is called also moment-based assessment and experience sampling method. And to do that, we had a WhatsApp chatbot. It was open 24/7, and people can, like, in 2 or 3 o'clock at night, can send the bot, the robot, say hi, and which means I'm listening to music now, and the chatbot will tell them, okay, in a random time between 5 minutes and an hour, I'm going to send you, a message. Please rate the music, the song that you're listening to at the moment, right? So there was no memory effect. And they did it okay. So basically, I'll explain the research method. We had 40 participants only from the small collection group, because we wanted to see if it affects, having them collected, people that don't collect, having them collected will make them enjoy listening more. And we have a within subject design. Basically, first we had the baseline condition with no manipulation at all. And then we had the collection condition and the algorithm condition counterbalance between each other. In the collection condition, we had like 1 week of collecting music, and people actually did it. They collected about 50 songs, which is like 66% increase. And the other week, listening to these collections. And in the algorithm condition, we basically asked people to hear what the app offers them to hear. The reason that we did the algorithm condition is not because actually we were so interested in this algorithm effect, but because we wanted to complicate the experiment, because we didn't want people to find out if it was just like 2 conditions. People can guess what we're looking for and, comply with our expectations. So we wanted to complicate things, and we added another condition for that to reduce possible participant bias. Now to the results. First of all, streaming. So we were right that the questionnaire evaluation was too high. This is for the same participants. This is in the questionnaire, and this is in real time in the baseline condition with no manipulation at all. And there's a significant difference between about 1 point of difference between each two. So really, if I give my student, I don't know how the system goes in England with the gradings, but if I give my students 76 as a mark, they'll come screaming at me. But if I give them 86, it's okay. So they think that things are okay, but it's not. It needs some improvement. It could do with some improvement. Now this is the baseline condition. Now next to the collection condition, and you can see that it really improved. It significantly improved it. Again, by a point more. It's a lot. And surprisingly, the algorithm condition didn't do so good, right? Less than the baseline condition. So I will return to that in a minute. But why do people enjoy listening to music they collect? Well, there's a very obvious reason for that, of course, and that is, that they collect the music that they enjoy hearing, right? So any other kind of music, almost by definition, they'll enjoy less, right? But there's another reason, more sophisticated reason, found by Daniel Gilbert, psychologist and behavioral economist, which is called the psychological immune system. And when I heard about it, it really blew my mind, and I hope it will blow your mind too, because I really understood things about my life I didn't understand beforehand. It's rare that I read the psychological theory and this happens to me. And what the psychological immune system does is when people make a selection, the psychological immune system kicks into action to make them focus on the positive side of the selection and somewhat ignore the negative sides. For example, think of a girl or of a woman who is going on a blind date with somebody who bored her, right? What will she say to her friends? She said, I'll never date him again because, he bores me, right? But think of a woman who is married to somebody who is boring for her, okay? So what will she tell herself? She can't say, I won't ever see him because she's married to him. Okay? So she thinks less of the fact that he's boring her. She tries not to think about it because what can she do? And she focuses on these good qualities, right? He's a good husband, he's good with the kids, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm saying it, this is if it's something good, bad, but it's actually something very good. Yeah, we all have partners that are not angels and have both good and bad properties, and the fact that we can concentrate on the positive side is actually a good thing because, makes living in couples more easy and more tolerable and more fun. Now think of another example. You're going on Oxford Street, okay? You want to buy a coat and you see the same coat for the same price in two stores, one next to each other. One has the coat is on sale. You buy it, you pay for it, and that's it. And the other is a boutique shop. You can you buy it, you pay for it, but you have a 1 month money back guarantee. Okay, you can return within 1 month. What? Don't think. Just tell me who would buy it in the first sales shop. 1, 2. Who will buy it in the other shop? Oh, okay, you're amazing people. Most of the people, including me, our intuition is to have this freedom to buy, to have this choice of replacing, if you don't like. And actually, we are willing to pay more for this. For example, for the option to cancel our trip, right? So, but if you go, but you are right in deciding to go for the first job, because if you go out of the first job, the deal is done, right? You go and you say, oh, it's a warm coat, I like it, I can put my hands in the pocket. The coat is blue, I like blue, right? Perfect. And then if you go out of the boutique shop, what will you say to yourself? Should I return it or shouldn't I return it? Because the deal is not done. So the psychological immune system doesn't kick into action. And you say, it's blue, but it's not really the kind of blue that I like. So should I return? In the end, you end up not liking and not enjoying this coat as much as you would if you just buy it on spot. But the thing about this is that it's not a conscious decision. This is a decision was made in the dark dungeons of the mind, and so people are not aware of it, because the rational decision would be to make choices, right? People really prefer not to make choices, delay the choices, and this is true for music as well. You know, they don't collect a lot, and even if they collect, one of the participants told me, you know, I like this, but I'm in a certain mood right now, but maybe I'll be in a different mood tomorrow, things like this. But even if they do collect, they can, you know, they like a song, okay, good gift. They can unlike it, right? They don't commit to it like when they pay for it. So this is a psychological immune system. Now, listening to songs is and can be seen as a holistic sort of thing. So you don't listen to one song, okay, the other song, okay. There's like a vibe that goes through these songs, right? So if you have a song you don't really enjoy listening to, it spoils the vibe in a way. So we looked at, we had three, in each condition, we had like three tries, okay? And we looked at the highest and the lowest importance. It's important for me is the lowest, right? So this is in the collection condition. The lowest, the average low was above 7.5, which is not that bad. It's around the mean of the baseline, right? But in the baseline condition, it's lower than 6.5, and in the algorithm condition, it's around it's lower than 6. So you can rule the value. You know, you have a few songs that you like, and then something you don't like, it spoil it all. Now we asked people after the collection week. Remember, we had the collecting week, and then we had a week of listening. But after the collecting week, we asked them how difficult and how enjoyable it was, and it was not very difficult, much more enjoyable to collect. And in the end of the experiment, we had like a very short 10 minutes phone interview. And we asked people about their attitude about collecting, listening to it, and about algorithms. So about collecting, about 70% had a positive attitude and said that they'll continue to collect, and only 13% had a negative, said negative things about collecting. While regarding algorithm, the situation is very different. About 50% said negative things about algorithm. Basically, they said, you know, that it doesn't surprise them. It's like hearing the same songs from the same neighborhood, and it's pretty repetitive. 22% had mixed feelings or said mixed things about algorithm, and only 27% said positive things purely about algorithms. So the conclusions for the experimental study: participants rated listening in German in 3 conditions. So in the baseline condition, it's really in need of improvement. It doesn't do so good. And the collection condition did supply the significant improvement of actually a point more. And the algorithm condition, we found unexpected problems. So my conclusion for this is that streaming the application should encourage users to collect more. right? How could they do that? There's a few possible ways I thought about, but probably there's more when you think about it. So first of all, when you search again and again for the same song, the plus sign can blink and say, "Oh, come on, save me in your collection." Or you can have like milestones messages, like, for example, congratulations, you collected 1,000 songs in your collection, in your streaming collection, and people can put it in their social media platform, and so the friends can see and make it cool to collect. Another design implication has to do specifically with Spotify. Unlike Apple, which has a library, in Spotify, there's like 3 different libraries. There's like songs, there's playlists and downloads, and the songs in the playlists and downloads do not appear in the liked songs, even though obviously the user liked them. Otherwise, why would they put them in a playlist or a download, right? So just to have a single library, and if it's pretty arbitrary where do you put it in playlist. Don't remember if you put it there or there or there. And if you put it in one place, it's out of reach if you look for it in another place. So just to have a single library would be a good thing. I think that the Liberty don't have it, but that's another story. Now, I was comparing collecting to algorithm and made it look like it's two rivalry or competing approaches, but actually they're really completing each other. For example, collection improve algorithm prediction, because if you have a song, right? People listen to a song in the using the algorithm, and people liked it, right? So say, okay, that's a feedback. Let's use this feedback and give them more of this kind of song. Or people can start their musical journey driven by the algorithm by using a song from the collection, right? They start with a song they like and say, the algorithm brings them more of the same kind of song. So the two can work very well together if people will put the mind to it. So just to wrap it all up, we did an initial qualitative study where we found music cheapening. Then we did a questionnaire study where we found drastic reduction in collection size. And then a control experiment study where we found collecting music increases listening enjoyment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions?
Thank you. Fascinating topic. I have two questions. One is a clarification and one is more general. The clarification is, can you tell us a bit more about the algorithm? And the second part is, I can see how one could just do this out of personal interest in music, but I was curious whether you had any formal or informal contact with companies like Spotify, and whether you have any impression that they actually reflect on this kind of stuff. Because as you said, their interface has things that look just like messy.
Oh, I'm sorry for the pessimistic answer, but as usual with the industry, they don't really want to listen to scientists. I tried, did my best to reach out, but I didn't see really interest so far. Maybe things will change, but first question about the algorithm, but what
if you could tell us a bit more about the algorithm and like why people were so negative about it.
Basically the algorithm works. There's different kind of ways it works, but basically it's collaborative filtering. It's if people listen to the same couple of songs together, so and somebody listens to it, it's like you buy a book in Amazon. If you say, people that bought this book also bought this book. There are other ways. The algorithm is complicated. There are things with the music itself that they check, and it's not transparent. There's some information about it, but some of it is unknown. But why? So why did people not like it? Well, they said that it was the first thing. They said that it didn't take them out of their comfort zone. It didn't bring new things to them that they're like. It's not like you hear somebody say, a person says, listen to this, I really like this. They say, this is something you like, and they say, well, I don't like this actually. So the prediction isn't very good now. Things can change in the future. Maybe the algorithm can improve, but the burden of proof is on them. And actually, it's funny that I didn't see any experiment or any other study that tested listening enjoyment with algorithm. They look for, they're happy with people staying, listening. That's enough for them. If they don't put it on. The big plus with algorithm is laziness. We don't. So the answer to what will I listen to next, which is a big question, used to be, as a very easy answer. Whatever the algorithm brings me, and usually it's not terrible, okay, but it's not enjoyable, and it's less enjoyable than people think.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, I'll ask a question.
Right.
If I understand correctly, at the end you said we should encourage people to collect more, and that will increase their enjoyment. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? Because it seems to be counter to the jam thing, where the jam example again, where if you've got more, it's more difficult to make a choice.
Yeah.
So why is it that you're suggesting to people to collect more, to enjoy their music more?
Yeah, this is one of the participants said that he's into streaming heavily, and he likes to explore. But he said before that, before I go to the rough sea, I want to sail around the harbor a bit. So he didn't collect, but he has like his recent, it's sort of like a collection. So I think the reason for it is that they'll enjoy listening more. It's not a big effort for them to do it. It is an effort choosing from a million of songs, but half of the population does it. They just need the other half a little encouragement. And from what I see, there's no encouragement in that. Spotify doesn't, because of these free collections. It goes the other way. Perhaps they want to be in control, and they have them listen to whatever they want to say. There was like I just read a paper, a Kai paper actually 2 years ago, about there was like something Spotify did where they had people collected albums, but then they reduced songs they didn't like it from them, and they said, okay, we'll give you more control. And then what they did, all the deleted songs appeared, which people, took out in time. So they did the other way. But I'm optimistic that maybe some of the advices can be adopted at least.
Hi, thank you very much for this very interesting talk. Just out of curiosity, because right now it's like we focus on music, but if we look into media, there's like other collectible and favorite collectible ones, like when we look into, which have like similar developments, right? It's like movies, for example, like when we started first with movie collections or video game collections and these kind of things. So I was just curious because what is your thought about when it comes to the interactivity of the medium? Like, for example, video games in comparison to music, for example, is like, is there an influence of this role of the interactivity of the medium you collect, for example?
Okay, so I think you gave two examples. I think they're a bit different from each other. I like the video game example. With movies, I mean, some people see some of the movies again, but usually you see a movie once, right? But a video game or any kind of game, it's reasonable. You want to, if you like a game, you want to play it again. So it's reasonable to collect it, and so the same thing applies here. There's joy in exploring new games, the joy in using the same game, playing the same game you used to. So it makes sense to collect games as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much for the talk. I wanted to ask about something around collecting and rarities. So collecting something that's a bit more underground, a bit more hard to come by. I'm just curious if you came across this in your study in any way, that in Spotify, it's almost like an open sandwich or something. I don't have a good metaphor for that, but it's like an open
really glad you asked this question.
Table.
One of the participants told me that one of the big joys of collectors is saying, basically, not in real words, but feeling this. I have this and you don't, right? The rarity. Yeah, I have this one and you don't. And he used to have this. He's like in his 20s, but he used to have it in the CD days. And now it doesn't mean anything. If you have it, okay, people put it on Shazam, okay, they identify it and they have it as well, right? So it doesn't mean anything. The same guy also said he's a musician, and he said that musicians he admires always talk about their childhood and looking for the music they really liked and how it affected them. And you see here, people listen to the same music because the algorithm suggests it's basically regression to the mean. The people, the say popular songs get good. It's easy, but this is, now I'm expressing my own opinions. This is like against going and developing your own taste in a way, because the algorithm always give you popular songs. They suggest popular songs, which people like them. Otherwise, why that's the meaning of being popular. But when you collect, you develop your own taste, your own individual taste. It can be rarities. It can be. It doesn't have to be rarities, but it's your taste. It's you listen to yourself, to your own heart and what you really love. But when you listen to things suggested by the algorithm, it's basically going to the mainstream, and it's just like I feel it's like filling time with music. It's not like something that you get emotional about, like this girl that said had a pain in his stomach at a place with pain in his stomach. She collected it. She really loved these songs. This is the difference, I think, between the two, algorithm and collections. Yes.
Thanks for the talk. I think my question was about the design implications, and you mentioned a couple of how to increase people's collection behavior, and there's sort of like the gamification aspects of it and stuff. But I wonder if you thought about how AI could be infused into that process. So I think one thing Spotify has done recently is they have this DJ feature where you actually play it, and it's an artificial voice that's sort of recommending different songs to you. They're like, I'm going to show you ones you like, but also maybe some you don't like. And you sort of go through this listening experience with this AI DJ. And I wonder if there's something similar that could happen with the collecting process, where the AI, instead of it just giving you stuff, there's more of a negotiation, you know, almost like when you're in a record shop and you're talking to the person and they're giving you suggestions, and there's that kind of interaction. Do you envision that kind of thing happening with online, you know, streaming?
Yeah, I didn't, but it's a great idea. As I said, I just I'm not saying that these ideas that are the definite ideas. We're just beginning to think, and thank you for brainstorming this. I think it's a great idea. The feedback maybe to the people could be fun and gameful and playful, sort of like when you suggest the DJ in the algorithm. This same thing can happen with collecting, making collecting a cool thing. Actually, you know, the situation it's like a half glass and half glass. Like the glass is half full, right? I'm focused on the empty, half empty, but actually half of the people collect pretty low, like 1,000 songs on average. It's fine. So just to make the other ones collect like this, it will be a good idea to use gamification. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. I just wondered if you found if there was like a social aspect in terms of like self-presentation maybe, and how people build their collections. Because like you can share your playlist with other people. If you go into someone's Spotify profile, you can see which playlists are public, and it kind of can tell you something about someone's life, like, oh, they go to the gym, or they're really into this thing. Did people talk about that?
I didn't, but I read the papers that people really want to present themselves, and before, you know, they show it to the public, they trim the songs that like they're a bit shameful about, like don't want to show it to people, for example, and they try to look cooler than they are when they present it to themselves to the public. But actually, the interesting thing is that the same thing happens with the streaming applications companies, right? So they both have access to the same hundreds of millions of songs, or whatever, you know, millions of songs at least. The same songs basically. It's limited. So how can what competitive edge they have to each other? So they make a cool name for the playlists. Makes all sorts of cool names for the playlist, and say, oh yeah, we have this cool playlist that we made, blah blah blah. But it's basically the same songs. So not only kids try, you know, if teenagers try to be cool, that's fine. But if public companies try to look cool, you know, it's and that's the only edge. It's the same song. That's a bit weird to me, at least.
Okay, one final question.
Yeah.
How big is your collection?
So it's a bit bigger than 1,000 songs, but it's really songs I really feel really passionate about. I never, like, if I'll show you something. Up. So never mind. So if you remember the people that collected songs, they were around. Yeah. This is the collection condition was around the 8.6. I never let song under 9 into my collection. If I don't like it 9 or close to 9, I don't let it enter my collection. I never thought of it numerically, of course, but songs that are really, and actually I pay for them. I don't use streaming. I pay for them, and the reason I think that I enjoy more is actually that I pay for them, because I don't want to bother to listen to songs that I don't bother to buy. I don't want to buy. If I buy, again, this is the psychological immune system kicks into action, but also the selection is higher. There's higher selection. Like people can have like thousands of songs in their collection and not bother to hear them. That's all, you know, don't really like them. That's also, I think, not good. Yeah.
Like, how do you
Me personally, okay, so I listen to music, yeah, with radio or anything like in cafes, and then I apply Shazam, and then I check it on YouTube just to make sure that I really like it, and then I simply buy it. Yeah. I told Yvonne that my next paper is called Why I Insist on Buying Music When Everybody Knows It's for Free. Yes.
I think on that note, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you. So now
There's a sample, the same thing.